Hello and welcome to Coco and Bloom Wreath Workshop. My name is Claire and I'll be here to guide you through the process step by step to make and create your own beautiful Christmas wreath. I've also got Ruth here with me as well. She's part of our events team, so she's not a trained florist, so she's going to show you how easy it is to create your own Christmas wreath as well. So your first step, in your kit you should have some wire. Yours won't be on a reel like mine, but you'll have a long length of wire. So if you'd like to get the end of your wire.
Okay. Yep.
And then your frame.
Yep.
Now you'll see on the frame there's some crossover parts of the frame.
Okay, yep.
If you just like to wind your wire
Underneath
around,
and round?
Yeah, underneath and round.
Okay.
And this is just to give your wire an anchor point before you attach your moss.
And how many times do you recommend that we go round with the wire?
Do it 2 or 3 times and then wrap it around itself.
Okay. Perfect.
And then just to make sure it's secure, give it a little tug.
Okay, yeah.
If it doesn't pull away, you're okay.
Good to go.
You're good to go.
Okay.
Okay, so also in your kits you'll have your moss, which looks like this. So your next step is just to grab a handful of moss.
Okay. And how, so I see that we've got a certain amount of moss here. How do we know how much to put in each area so we don't wire it on and then
Very good
lose all
question.
our moss?
So to make sure that you don't, because the last thing you want to do is get halfway around your wreath and find that you've used all your moss. So what you can do is get your handfuls out and just roughly spread your moss out.
Okay, so sort of in the shape of where we're going to go.
That's it.
Okay.
And then you know you're going to have enough to cover your moss frame.
Okay. Does it need to be split out, or can we have it sort of in? I see it's sort of in clumps.
Yeah, so in clumps really. I mean, just as it comes. You don't need to separate it at all.
Perfect.
It sort of naturally clumps up, which is nice. It tends to give you a handful.
And we don't need to worry about taking out leaves and.
No. So it's a natural product. You may even find the odd bug in there. So.
Oh, in fact, I've got a ladybird.
You
here.
have a ladybird.
Along for the ride. Okay. So would you say that's about right?
Yeah, that's perfect. So that will just make sure that you've got coverage as you go.
Perfect.
Okay. So.
Sorry, just a little bit on.
There. So your next step is to start attaching your moss. So if you take a handful of moss and lay it on the front of your wreath frame.
Yeah.
And then you can start winding the wire around the moss and the frame itself.
Okay, so sort of in a spiral.
That's it, yeah.
Okay, great. Do I need to pull quite tightly, or will it sort of hold itself?
You don't want to pull it too tightly. What you don't want it to do is you don't want it too compact, because that will make it very difficult when you put your decorations through.
Okay.
But at the same time, you don't want it too loose that it falls off. So keep a little bit of tension on the wire, but don't tie it. Don't pull it too tight. Also, if you do pull it too tight, there's a risk of the wire actually snapping and breaking.
Okay.
And then you have to start.
Sort of moss base like this. Will it stay quite? I mean, it's quite moist. Will it stay quite moist?
Yeah, again, it depends on the conditions and how sheltered your door is. So if you're hanging it in a porch area and it's quite sheltered, you may want to give it a spray, the foliage and the moss a spray now and again, just to keep it moist, so it doesn't dry out too much. If you feel like there's a part of the ring which is perhaps thinner or thicker than the rest, it doesn't matter at this point, because you're going to cover it with your decoration and your greenery as well. This is to give you a base and to give you the shape next to your foliage.
Okay. So I've got a large old tree of pine.
You have.
Okay.
So in your packs you will have your spruce, which looks like a Christmas tree. You've got your grevillea, and you've also got eucalyptus.
Okay, and how big do we?
Again, I cut it off so you've got the tips, and that will give you a nice shape, but you can also use the smaller pieces as well when you get towards the end. What you don't want to do is waste any of your spruce. The thicker, what you want to avoid is using anything with too much of a thick stem or trunk in there.
Okay, so not the main sort of.
No, because that's going to
branch.
make it difficult for you to put your decoration in again.
And again, we just spritz the whole thing, and then that will last.
Yeah,
with
so
the spruce.
and again, it depends how sheltered your wreath is. So if you don't have a porch area and it's quite exposed and it's been raining quite a lot, then obviously you won't need to do it, because what you can do is just feel the back of feel the moss, and you'll be able to see whether it is. And a lot of the live products like the grevillea and the eucalyptus will naturally dry and preserve.
Okay. And this sort of spruce, is it sort of, does it drop or?
It does drop after time, but it takes a long time to get there. What you tend to find is it's more likely to drop if there's a lot of heat, which you won't tend to find. So it's not going to drop overnight or very quickly. It will be over time. So it will certainly last you up to Christmas.
So you'd recommend
not a
having
little
these
bit beyond.
wreaths living outside rather than inside?
Yeah, I mean you can have them inside obviously, but they may, if you do have them inside, you will have to spritz them quite often. And they may not last quite as long because of obviously your central heating and all.
Yeah.
So you still have your wire attached. So I start by layering some spruce on. And again, I tend to do this in one direction. So choose the direction that you're going to work in.
Mm-hmm. One piece at a time, sorry.
I put a couple on there. It depends how thick they are. So if you get one nice big bushy bit, what you don't want to do is you don't want to layer too much on. Again, because, and if you want to lay it out first as you did with the moss, you can, because what that will do is make sure that you don't run out by the time you get to the end. Two, you don't want it too compact, so you don't want to put lots of greenery and spruce on it, because then you won't be able to be very difficult to attach your decoration as well.
Okay.
Because you make it a little bit too dense.
And which direction do we go in? So if I've got my stem sort of going left, do I then go that way around?
That's it. So you keep it going in the same direction.
And the stem's sort of going along with the circle, or in or out?
Yeah, so, and again, you can use some artistic license in this. I had some ladies last year that wanted it a little bit bushier at the bottom. So if you wanted to do that, you know, you can. In this purpose, we're going to keep it quite even as we go along, just to maintain that shape of the ring.
Okay.
But again, it's quite nice to have some natural, sort of more organic bits as well.
Yeah.
So I've got a little bit on there.
Okay.
So what we want to do as well as we go along is add our grevillea and our eucalyptus.
Okay.
So I'm just going to snip off a little bit of little sprig of grevillea and a little sprig of eucalyptus.
Okay.
And the same process, you just pop that in and wrap the wire around. And then a little bit more spruce. And then you repeat the same again with your grevillea and your eucalyptus.
Okay. Maybe that bit's a bit long there. And how often round do we want to add in the? Just sort of
Again,
however you
I'd say,
feel?
yeah, a little bit of however you feel, but I'd say, you know, a couple of pieces of spruce, then pop in a bit of grevillea and eucalyptus, a couple of pieces of spruce, and go on from that. But again, you want it evenly distributed, so you may want to. Now you just carry on layering up your spruce and your eucalyptus and your grevillea until you get to the end and the front of your wreath frame is completely covered. So now
we're gonna carry
your
on
wreath frame
doing
should be completely covered in foliage like this, and you've got all your foliage going in one direction. So the next step is to tie the wire off at the back of your frame. So if you turn your frame over, you should still be able to see your wire frame behind. If you can't, don't worry, you'll be able to feel for it. And same principle as before, when you tied the wire on, you just want to poke your wire through.
Okay.
And just wind it onto that frame, I'd say 3 or 4 times. All this is doing is tying it off and anchoring that wire so it holds your foliage and moss in place.
And for hanging it later on, will we create some kind of hook or?
Yeah, so what we'll do
it
towards the end, we'll decorate, and then it's nice to have a look at your wreath and decide what you'd like to be the top and the bottom of your wreath, and then we'll ribbon and we'll attach a hook as well. In regards to hanging your wreath, there's loads of options out there now. You can buy, if you've got PVC doors, you can buy the suckers that you can put on to hang your wreaths. If you've got a more traditional door, you can use the wreath hangers, over the door wreath hangers as well.
Okay.
So now I've done that, what I want to do is I just want to tuck that wire back into the moss.
Yeah.
And the reason why we do this is because we don't want any wire sticking out of the back of the wreath, because that could potentially damage your door or scratch your door.
Okay.
So lovely. So now your wreath is based, it's mossed, it's foliaged, and it's secured as well. If you're in any doubt, you can give it a little bit of a shake, and just to make sure that
I hope it doesn't fall hard.
we're all secure. So it's good. And don't worry if you do get the odd little bit of fall off, you can just wind a little bit of wire around it individually. So now we're going to move on to wiring our decoration. So depending on what kit you have, depends on what decoration you have in there, but the wiring is the same sort of principle throughout. So right, so we'll start off with the orange.
Okay.
This is probably the trickiest one to do. So if you see on a dried orange, you do have slits running through there, and the trick is to get your wire to line up
and go through one
and go
side,
through one side and out the
other.
other, which is, it can be a little bit tricky. And I've been doing this for some time and I still,
Especially if it's not in line.
yeah, I still struggle with it. There we go. As you can see, it's gone through one slit and come out the other.
Yeah. Perfect. We want that near the base of the orange.
Yeah, so mine came out about here, so what I've done is I've just tugged it and pulled it down so it comes down to the bottom. And then all you want to do is wire it together, wind it together to secure your orange onto the wire.
Okay, so just sort of like that with a little...
That's it, perfect.
Okay. Lovely.
Okay, so next we have the orange slices. Now with these are nice, you tend to get more impact if you group them together and wire them as two. So what we're going to do is almost like a stitch if you were sewing.
Mm-hmm.
So you pop the wire in, turn it over and pop it through the other side.
Sort of in the same segment or in the next one?
Yeah, I tend to go the next one along just so it's got a bit of something to hold it in between.
More stability.
Yeah, that's it. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
And we want both lengths the same. So these are both the same length, or?
It doesn't matter. If you have two poking out like that, it can make it tricky when you're pushing it through your wreath. So you can go either way. You can have one longer part as you have.
Yep.
Or you can make sure that both the wires are twisted together.
Okay. Okay.
And that will just make it easier to push through the wreath.
Lovely.
So same principle with the apples. So just pop your wire through one side and then the other.
Okay.
And twist your wire together. And that's your apples wired. How are you getting mine? Sorry, I was running
No,
away
it's
there.
okay. Well, got a slippery apple, this one. There we go. Okay.
Your pine cones are probably, is that your one? I've just...
No, that's fine.
Your pine cones are probably the easier ones because you've got lots of nooks in there. So you just pop your wire around the base of the pine cone and wrap around. And then again, just twist those wires together so it's nice and secure. got these which are lotus head seed heads. They are quite soft, so you can actually just pop the wire through and it will come out the other side. And then there's always a little bit of a stem which you can just wrap it round for a little bit of extra security. And then you can twist those wires together.
That's probably the easiest one out of all of them, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I have actually also got a bauble to wire as well. It's not within our Wreath design, however some of your kits will include baubles, so I thought I'd just include that in there for you. Luckily with the baubles they do have a tag that you can go through. So just pop your wire through and then twist those wires together. And that's your bauble wired. Okay, so now we have the cinnamon to wire. So with the cinnamon we group it generally in 2s or 3s. Wrap the wire around the cinnamons all together. And as tightly as you can, just twist that wire to hold them. And wind that wire together.
Quite fiddly.
It is a little bit. Yeah, they are quite slippery, so you need to sort of keep quite a good hold with your left hand.
Tight grip on them.
Yeah, that's that.
Indeed. It's one of my just on the floor. No harm in starting over again.
No.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And then you'll find you've got some twine in there. So with the twine, you can use that to just hide that wire around the middle. So just wrap it round and tie a little bow, and that just hides the wire. Like so.
Okay, perfect. So now you've got a whole lot more of wiring to do, so we're going to leave you to it. And come back.
We'll carry on and come back. So now we've wired all of our decoration, it's time to decorate our wreaths. So when you're decorating your wreath and you're thinking about placement, we always tend to say that with a round shape it's better to place in odd numbers rather than even numbers. The reason for that is because if you have even numbers, I'm just going to do a little bit of a demonstration. So that's 4 pine cones. What you create is you create a square shape rather than a round shape, which is what we're looking for.
Okay. So do we try to make it sort of unsymmetrical rather than symmetrical?
Yeah. So what I tend to do is I distribute things quite evenly across. But as I say, you don't want to put them in groups of 2s, 4s, 6s, because then what will happen is you'll start creating quite a square shape. So I'm going to start with the oranges. So I've got one.
Does it matter what order you sort of do things in, or?
No, and again, it's entirely up to your own creative flair in that respect, or where you want to start. I like to start with the smaller elements first, and then that just gives me a base. And then, because the larger elements like the pine cones, you might actually want to group 2 or 3 together, depending on. So what you need to do is you get your wire and you poke it through so it comes out the back of your wreath frame. You pull that through.
Okay.
And bend it and poke it back into the moss. And again, the reason that you're poking it back into the moss frame is so that you don't have any exposed wires sticking out the back. And there you go, your orange is nicely secured.
Okay, if you've got a really like me,
Mm-hmm.
would you recommend cutting it first?
I'd probably shorten it, yeah. Okay, so now we've finished decorating our wreath and we've got all of our embellishments on there. As you can see, they're evenly spread throughout the wreath. And you can group some together if you wanted to, so you could put a couple of pine cones together, depending on how you wanted it to look. So what we're going to do now is we're going to attach your ribbon. So in your box, you'll find that you have a length of ribbon. What you want to do is you want to fold that in half, and you want to pop your wire through the top of the loop and just twist it together. Very much the same as the rest of the decoration. What you might want to do is just hold the wreath up in front of you, decide what you think is the bottom and the top. Naturally you'll find that the wreath will look better one way or the other. So I feel that this is the bottom of my wreath, so that's where I'm going to place my ribbon. And again, just as you did with the decoration, push the wire through the frame, pull it, and then just tuck your wire back into the moss. And you'll see your ribbon is now attached. Okay, beautiful.
Okay.
Fantastic. So the final thing for you to do is to create a hook at the top of your wreath so that you can hang your wreath on your door. So if you turn your wreath round, and you want to make sure the wire at the ribbon that you've just attached is at the bottom of your wreath, so you know this is going to be your top, so you know it's going to hang evenly. Now, as before, you can see your frame there. If you can't see it and you've covered it in moss, you should still be able to feel it. So just pop your wire through the frame, and twist the wires together to create yourself a hook.
So twisting the wires together at the top of the...
Yep.
Okay, for the two ends.
And there you have it. It's now ready to hang, and you've created your own Christmas wreath. So we would love to see your completed wreaths, and we've decided to run a little bit of a competition. So we're going to judge the best of your wreaths. So if you'd like to tag us in on your images on Instagram and Facebook by the 21st of December, and the winner will receive a little treat. So all that's left to say is have a wonderful Christmas, Merry Christmas from the entire Coco and Bloom team. And thank you so much for supporting us throughout the year, and we just hope that you have a lovely Christmas. Thank you.